January 14th, 2025. China pulls the trigger. A complete export ban on rare earth processing technology to the United States. Not a tariff, not a reduction, a total embargo. And in that single moment, $78 billion of American semiconductor production capacity becomes instantly obsolete. Fighter jets are grounded. Electric vehicle production lines freeze. The entire AI revolution is hanging by a thread controlled by Beijing. But here is what nobody is telling you. This isn't new. This isn't unprecedented. This isn't even surprising. This is stage 3 of a 4-stage pattern that has destroyed every dominant economic power in recorded history. And it is happening again, right now, in real time. The United States controls 23% of global financial transactions. It prints the world's reserve currency. It commands the largest military ever assembled. And yet, none of that matters, because we just discovered what every empire discovers right before collapse. The person who controls the raw materials controls everything, and we don't control anything anymore. This is the manufacturing Cold War, the silent World War III. And America just found out it brought a credit card to a resource fight. This is veiled wealth. Let me show you the pattern. Then let me show you why it is already too late to stop it. The cycle of resource dependency has 4 stages. Always 4, never 3, never 5. History doesn't care about your optimism. It doesn't care about your technology. It doesn't care about your military budget. It follows the same brutal sequence every single time. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Stage 1 is dominance through production. The rising power controls the raw materials. They control the production capacity. They build the manufacturing base. They make things, real things, steel, ships, microchips, batteries, solar panels. They don't financialize. They don't outsource. They don't optimize for quarterly earnings. They build. And in building, they accumulate the one thing that actually matters in geopolitics: leverage. Real leverage, not the financial kind. The kind where you control what other nations need to survive. Stage 2 is the financialization of the incumbent. The dominant power gets comfortable. They get wealthy. They get lazy. Manufacturing is seen as dirty. It is seen as expensive. It is for developing countries. Why manufacture when you can financialize? Why build factories when you can buy products cheaper from abroad? Why invest in production when financial engineering generates better returns? The spreadsheets make sense. The quarterly earnings look great. The stock market rewards the decision. So production moves offshore, the factories close, the knowledge disappears, the supply chains fragment, and slowly, quietly, imperceptibly, the dominant power becomes dependent, not just economically dependent, strategically dependent, militarily dependent. They don't notice until it is too late because everything still works. The products still arrive. The shelves stay stocked until they don't. Stage 3 is the resource leverage event. This is where we are right now. January 2026. The rising power realizes something critical. They hold all the cards. They have the factories. They have the materials. They have the production knowledge. They have the supply chains. And the incumbent? The incumbent has financial instruments, securities, derivatives, dollar-denominated promises, treasury bonds, none of which matter when the supply chain gets cut. So the rising power makes their move. An export ban, a strategic embargo, a coordinated restriction. And suddenly, violently, the dominant power discovers that you cannot print your way out of a mineral shortage. You cannot financialize substitute materials into existence. You cannot optimize a supply chain you don't control. Stage 4 is systemic collapse or subordination. The incumbent has 2 choices, only 2. Go to war over resources they no longer control the production of, or accept subordination. Accept that they are no longer the dominant power, that their currency no longer commands automatic respect, that their military cannot project power without supply chains they don't control. This is where empires end. Not with a bang, not with an invasion, with a purchase order that gets rejected, with a shipment that never arrives, with a factory that cannot operate because the inputs stopped flowing. Now, let me show you this pattern in action. 3 times in history. Same sequence, same outcome every single time. Then we will apply it to right now, to America, to China, to the crisis unfolding this very moment. Let's start with Rome, 3rd century AD. The empire is at its peak, or so they think. Rome doesn't mine anymore. It doesn't smelt anymore. It doesn't forge anymore. Why would they? They conquered everyone who does. Egyptian grain flows in automatically. Spanish silver gets extracted by provincial labor. Germanic iron ore gets processed in Gaul. Rome's job is to consume, administer, tax, and financialize the empire. They are so dominant, they forget how to make anything. The legions still march. The aqueducts still flow. But the production capacity is gone, outsourced to the provinces centuries ago. And here is what is critical. Rome doesn't notice, because everything still works. The grain ships arrive every season. Why build expensive Roman foundries when provincial production costs less? Why maintain Roman agricultural capacity when Egyptian grain is abundant? The financial logic is perfect. The economic efficiency is undeniable. Until it isn't. Then something shifts. The provinces realize something. Rome needs them more than they need Rome. The grain shipments slow and stop. The metal supplies get restricted. The Germanic tribes who used to supply raw materials start keeping it for themselves. They start forging their own weapons. They build their own capacity. And Rome tries to pay for goods with devalued currency. Antoninianus coins that used to be silver are now copper with a silver wash. The provinces aren't stupid. They stop accepting Roman currency at face value. By 410 AD, the Visigoths sack Rome. By 476 AD, the Western Roman Empire is gone. Erased. Not because Rome lost military battles, not because Romans forgot how to fight, because Rome forgot how to feed itself without Egyptian grain, forgot how to arm itself without provincial metals. Financial dominance without production capacity equals nothing. Zero. Dust. Now jump forward. Britain, 1870s to 1914. The empire on which the sun never sets. For 100 years, Britain is the world's workshop. If you want manufactured goods, you buy British. There is no alternative. But then something shifts. British factory owners discover something seductive. Investing in colonial extraction is more profitable than investing in domestic production. Building railways in Argentina generates better returns than upgrading Manchester mills. Financing American steel plants beats building new British foundries. The capital flows follow the returns. Always. Every time. And the returns point outward, away from Britain, toward the very nations that will destroy British dominance. By 1900, Britain produces less steel than the United States, less than Germany. The workshop of the world is importing steel. By 1914, the Royal Navy discovers something absolutely terrifying. They need German optical systems for their rangefinders, American steel for their battleships, Japanese precision components for their fire control systems. Their entire war machine, the machine that enforces their global dominance, depends on nations they might have to fight. And in August 1914, they do fight. World War I erupts. And Britain discovers that financial dominance means nothing when you can't manufacture ammunition faster than you're firing it. Britain survives the war only because American production saves them. Without American steel and munitions, Britain loses in 1916. The world's dominant empire ran out of shells. Not because of a lack of money, but because they forgot how to make things. One more example. This one is the most terrifying because it mirrors the United States today perfectly. Japan, 1920s to 1941. Japan is industrializing fast. They are building a modern navy, a modern army, a modern industrial economy. But they have one critical problem, one fatal vulnerability. No resources, none. No oil, no iron, no rubber, no aluminum, no rare minerals. 80% of Japan's oil comes from American wells. 70% of their steel-grade iron ore comes from the British Empire. They are a manufacturing power completely, utterly, catastrophically dependent on rivals for raw materials. Japan knows this. Their military planners write papers about it. So they decide the solution is expansion. Seize the resources. They invade Manchuria in 1931, push into China in 1937, and the Western powers watch and worry. And in July 1941, America makes the move. A complete oil embargo. No American oil flows to Japan, not one barrel. Britain and the Dutch East Indies follow. All the oil, all the scrap metal, all the strategic materials cut off, gone. Embargo complete. Japan faces a choice. They have oil reserves for maybe 18 months. After that, the Navy stops, the Army stops, the economy stops, so they can submit to American terms, withdraw from China, dismantle their empire, accept subordination. Or they can go to war, seize the oil fields by force, bet everything on a rapid victory. December 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor. Japan chooses war over subordination. But you cannot win a resource war when your opponent controls the resources and has twice the production capacity. By 1945, Japan's manufacturing cities are ash. Millions die because an empire built on borrowed resources tried to fight the nations that control those resources. 3 examples, 3 empires, 3 catastrophic failures: Rome, Britain, Japan. Same pattern every time, same stages, same sequence, same outcome. You can financialize, you can dominate currency markets, you can control global trade routes. But if you don't control the raw materials and the production capacity, you control nothing. Now, right now, this very moment, let's apply this pattern to America. Let me show you where we are and why China's rare earth ban is stage 3 of a process that started 40 years ago. Stage 1 belongs to China, not America, not anymore. We are not in stage 1. We left stage 1 in 1985. We are so far past stage 1 that most Americans can't even remember what production dominance feels like. China controls 97% of global rare earth processing, not mining, processing. America mines rare earths. We have deposits in California, but we send almost all of it to China for processing because we shut down our facilities 30 years ago. Environmental regulations made it expensive. Chinese facilities offered cheaper alternatives. Quarterly earnings reports looked better with outsourced processing. So we closed the facilities, sold the equipment, fired the engineers, lost the knowledge, and now we have essentially zero domestic rare earth processing capacity. Let that sink in. The F-35, Joint Strike Fighter. America's most advanced weapons platform needs 417 pounds of rare earth elements per aircraft. The Virginia-class submarine needs 9,200 pounds per vessel. Every guided missile, every radar system, every laser, every communication satellite, there is no modern military without rare earths. None. We depend on China for the materials in our weapon systems. The weapon systems designed to contain China. That is not a supply chain relationship. That is strategic suicide. But it gets worse. Semiconductors. America invented the microchip. Today, America produces 12% of global semiconductor manufacturing capacity. China and Taiwan combined produce 68%. And the advanced chips, the chips that actually matter for AI and military applications, those are only manufactured in Taiwan. Only TSMC can make them. TSMC's factories are located 130 miles from mainland China, across a strait that China has 5,000 missiles pointed at. Our entire AI strategy depends on a facility that China has openly planned to seize by 2027. Our entire military modernization depends on chips manufactured in range of Chinese artillery. And we don't just lack chip production capacity, we lack the capacity to build the capacity. The machines that make semiconductors come from one company in the Netherlands. The chemicals come from Japan. The raw silicon comes from China. We are trying to build strategic independence using tools supplied by the global supply chain we are trying to escape. It is a trap, and we built it ourselves, willingly, enthusiastically, quarter by quarter. This brings us to stage 2, the financialization. This is what we have been doing for 40 years. In 1970, manufacturing was 28% of US GDP. Today, it is 11%. Finance, insurance, and real estate are now double the size of manufacturing. We don't make things anymore. We make financial instruments. We make collateralized debt obligations. We make derivatives. We make algorithmic trading strategies, none of which help you build a fighter jet when China stops selling you magnets. Between 2000 and 2020, America lost 5 million manufacturing jobs. We hollowed out Detroit, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Buffalo. We fired the engineers and hired the consultants. We optimized the supply chain to maximize shareholder value. And the result? Boeing, a company that used to be run by engineers, now run by accountants. They moved production to South Carolina for cheaper labor. They outsourced parts to global suppliers. And planes started falling from the sky because financial logic replaced engineering judgment, because cost reduction beats safety. It is not just private industry. The Pentagon outsourced defense production. 90% of Department of Defense microelectronics now come from Asia. 40% of the printed circuit boards in American weapon systems are manufactured in China. Let me say that again. China makes the electronics for the weapons we would use to fight China. We cannot go to war without Chinese components. We cannot maintain our military without Chinese materials. This is stage 2, complete. We financialized everything. We outsourced our survival. Which brings us to stage 3, the leverage event. China doesn't just ban rare earth exports. They ban the export of the technology to process them. They ban gallium, restricted, critical for radar. They ban germanium, restricted, critical for night vision. They ban antimony, restricted, critical for armor-piercing ammunition. This isn't hypothetical. This is happening right now. China is systematically turning off the tap. They are demonstrating that they control the inputs of modern civilization. And there's nothing America can do about it. We can pass the CHIPS Act. We can print $78 billion, but you cannot print a supply chain. You cannot print a mine. You cannot print 30 years of lost engineering expertise. Those fabs we are building in Arizona, they won't be operational until 2027, and they will still depend on raw materials from China. So we arrive at stage 4, the terrifying binary choice, subordination or war. Subordination is already here. Apple cannot make iPhones without China. Tim Cook knows it. That is why Apple adheres to Chinese censorship. That is subordination. Tesla cannot make batteries without China. Elon Musk knows it. That is why Tesla invests in Shanghai. That is subordination. The American economy operates with Chinese permission. We still wave flags, we still hold elections, but we cannot produce the things we need without our rivals' consent. And if we choose the other path, if we choose war, the Pentagon runs war games constantly, Taiwan invasion scenarios, and every scenario reveals the same vulnerability. We run out of precision-guided munitions in 3 weeks. We run out of anti-ship missiles in 2 weeks. We run out of air-to-air missiles in 10 days. We have the most advanced military in the world, but we have a glass jaw. We have no industrial depth. We cannot replace losses. China can. They have the shipyards, they have the steel mills, they have the factories. They can churn out destroyers like sausages. We take 5 years to build one submarine. You cannot win a war of attrition against the workshop of the world. Japan learned that lesson in 1945, Britain learned it in 1916, Rome learned it in 410, and America is about to learn it in 2026. There is a third option, the one nobody wants to talk about. Massive, immediate, state-directed reindustrialization. Not subsidies, not tax credits, direct government construction of processing facilities, nationalization of critical supply chains. It would cost trillions. It would lower our standard of living. It would crash the stock market. But it is the only way to survive stage 4. But looking at Washington, looking at Wall Street, they are still optimizing for next quarter. They are still playing the financial game. They are bringing a credit card to a resource fight. The silent world war is already over. We just haven't looked at the scoreboard yet. This is veiled wealth. We don't sell hope. We expose the reality. Prepare accordingly.